looks brilliant, give me more of this. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. Yeah, you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized, push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy, but the light has got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. Can I get you out of my head again? Is it wrong? Is it right? It's like I've won my final war without a fight. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. I know you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized, push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy, but the light has got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. And get you out of my head, get you out of my head.
Please note.
Never gonna stop, never gonna change, never gonna do the things you say. I run my own way to get there. Fools are calling and the eyes seem to care. In the air, no more crowd, just the opposite kind of few clouds. So tell me this time is coming for the sake of all your lies. Why don't you try to be wise? Know that I need you anyway.
I never wanted to be alive, just to feel like I'm fading. And though my heart breaks a beat of down, I press the lens just to tell you, don't lead the way, don't even say that I drown with a color flame in the rain. I feel like I'm fading.
I am in misery.
Everyone is watching me when I'm coming around. They all are judging me when I'm lying on the ground. I've got no shelter, I've got no escape. My life is a prison and I can't run away. I feel it in my bones, I'm losing it all. Stuck in my head, I am in misery. Deep inside myself, all I get, my only family. Stuck in the grave, can someone rescue me? I'm burning alive, I got it, I am in misery.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Taking Over. Yes, I am by myself tonight. It feels a little bit weird. Ed had a family emergency, so he's dealing with that. So, sending him and Mama Frey's well wishes moving forward. So, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit odd not having somebody to bounce off of. As I'm used to my partner being on screen with me, but here I am. Here I have Hassan. Is that how you say his name? Hi, nice to see you. So yeah, it's a little bit nerve-wracking to do this by myself, so we'll see how that goes. You like my hair? Thank you. That's my natural curly hair, so yay! Not the natural, get it? So a lot happened tonight in NXT, so we're gonna go from top to bottom to discuss everything that happened on tonight's show. First of all, we're gonna start with the opener. That was Stephanie Vaquer versus Karmen Petrovic. This is for the North American Women's Championship. This was a very exciting match to start with. I had a lot of fun with it. I I feel like it showcased Carmen a lot in what she has progressed to, and I really enjoy that. Millie, hi, I'm glad you're here. I know you missed us last night, so I'm here tonight. I'm happy you're here. Oh, look who's there.
I'm here
Hello.
briefly. I'm not staying the whole time. I didn't watch the whole show. I'm here for a few minutes.
Ew, I got my new Archie comic book navy long sleeve shirt and some color prints, and it was good. Nice.
There we go.
Hold on, I forgot this part. There we go. So many buttons for me. So we started with Stephanie and Carmen. That was really fun. I especially love the beginning here because Carmen has a submission for Stephanie, and she's able to bridge it in such a beautiful way. And they end up like switching back and forth between both of them. It looks so beautiful. I really love that sequence there. And again, the code breaker from Carmen. She did the stratosphere again as well. I don't know why they don't call it that on screen. I was very surprised. It's like second time she does it, and they don't call it that so far. So I thought it was very surprising because obviously we know that Trish is in good terms with the company. So, I mean, they call it the code breaker, and even Chris Jericho's not there. So, um, I did notice that at one point, Stephanie's bouncing off the ropes towards Carmen, and you can see Ashante. It looks like he's tempted to interfere, but he doesn't, which is very surprising in this match. And when Stephanie's going towards the top rope, Carmen like hits her with a super kick, which is very nice done. I like the way they portrayed this on commentary because they mentions like, oh, she's been like scouting her opponent, so she knew what was gonna happen, and she was able to cut it off before it actually happened. And yeah, this the usual ending here with Stephanie retaining though. It was a very fun opener. I feel like they got the crowd really hyped up to begin with. So I was very happy that this was the match. I feel like they picked a good opener for tonight. Did you end up watching this part?
I've seen bits and pieces of this match. I did see the ending, and I liked the ending. I thought that the use Carmen looked like $1 million tonight. I think that they went out of their way to put this match together to make sure that Carmen, even though she's going to lose, comes out in a much better position than she ever entered it. I like knockoff Brian Keith on the outside not getting involved. That's what he looked like to me tonight. He looked like a knockoff Brian Keith
Yeah.
with the cowboy hat with the little tassels on it and the black jacket thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought this was good. I thought it did exactly what it needed to do. I'm still surprised that Carmen was in this match. I really assumed it would have been Fallon taking the spot with them writing off Carmen for a couple of weeks. So it was nice to see Carmen here. She had a good match. Stephanie wins, and we build to something.
As Ed is insinuating, we have Julia arriving. And oh my god, he's so knockoff Brian Keith. Yeah, he did look like that though. Julia comes out and she tells Stephanie, "You say you're the best champion, but I think that's me." As she's actually signaling towards the NXT Women's Championship, and then she says, "I want to know who's the best." And Stephanie goes, "I'm la primera." La primera means I'm the champion of champions. So basically, I'm it, and you're not. And Julia says, "How about we do this? We." Both of us here, title for title. They didn't say when though at first when the show first started. So it's like it leaves you wondering when it's gonna happen at Roadblock or is it stand and deliver. So at the end they want to say we want to find out who the best woman is. This is something that I thought about will be happening since that moment that Stephanie was staring at the NXT Women's Championship. The other thing I was not expecting to be title for title, and I credit him for this. Jose was in our Discord mentioning how he has an idea that what if Stephanie loses the championship before that happens, but at the same time they just announced it for Roadblock later on. So I don't know if in 2 weeks she's gonna lose the title because that wouldn't really happen. So that's the only thing that I thought they would have said that for Stand and Deliver just to give it time for Stephanie to lose the championship and maybe still have it, just not be title for title. So that's the only thing I was wondering about this. Honestly, I wish NXT would have said Julia or Stephanie for Stand and Deliver. It's an PLE worthy match. Yes, it is. No, you're never late.
I mean, so let's dissect this. It's a PLE match.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost more important to do this match at Roadblock than at Stand and Deliver. And here's why. I'm not bald enough to do this, but no, here's why. You have no choice but to sell out the theater at MSG. You're WWE, you have a tradition. If you're working any portion of Madison Square Garden, you need to sell it out, which means you need marquee matches on that card. By the way, there are so many matches that I've heard so far for that show that I go, there's no way this, like the Hardys versus Fraxium. How does that end? Like, obviously the Hardys win because they're not putting the TNA tag titles on Fraxium. But like all of these Obafemi versus Moose for the NXT title, Julia and Stephanie title for title. I don't think any of these matches have a clear finish. Like, there's got to be shenanigans. Like, this is a lot of matches with a lot of like, all I see is somebody gets involved. X gets involved. Y gets involved. Like, I think Fallon gets involved in this match between Stephanie and Julia because she's going to say, why does Julia get to go to the front of the line again to take on the North American Women's Champion? I'm a former champion. I'm supposed to have a rematch.
That's true. And like Millie says, I'm conflicted with this. I'm excited for the match, but I don't want either to lose already. And that's how I feel too. I feel like to me, I don't want to say complicated, but it's a word that I can think of right now. The complicated part that I think about is the fact that, let's say, for example, you have Julia versus Stephanie. You're both powerhouses, like Millie's saying. You don't want either one to lose when they're both champions at the same time. I feel like that's the part that just like, it definitely has to end when something else happening here. Hello, I don't know where we got the raid from.
Rowdy Warrior does NXT watch-alongs. I've watched his product. I know we followed him on the Our Local Establishment channel. Thank you for what I believe is a raid. I'm just getting the back end of the Twitch side open as we speak. But thank you, Rowdy Warrior. I appreciate it. Yes, we did have a raid of 5 viewers from Rowdy Warrior, so we greatly appreciate it. We hoped all of you enjoyed NXT. Jump in the chat. Go ahead and tell us what you thought about NXT. We're just finishing talking about Stephanie versus Julia that just got signed for Stand and Deliver for Roadblock at MSG in 2 weeks on Tuesday. And again, I'll say it again one more time. I really think it's very important that this match happens at Roadblock as opposed to Stand and Deliver. For again, Stand and Deliver is going to sell the tickets it's going to sell because you're going to get that Mania weekend crowd. You're going to sell out whatever the T-Mobile Arena I think they're using. The same arena that Raw and SmackDown are using that weekend. So you're going to sell that out with no problem. It's a Mania weekend crowd. The international crowd will be here to sell it. You do that. That's where you do Jordan versus X.
Yeah,
that's
but
Jordan
also
versus Julia versus Stephanie, if you need to.
Yeah. And like Millie's saying here, we know Jordan might be involved somehow too. It's like, yeah, I feel like with the women's one, there's possibilities that we could get between Fallon, Jordan, maybe Roxanne, even Cora. At that point, there's possibilities in there. But like that was saying, it's like the complicated part is, for example, you book the Hardys versus Fraxium, both champions. So that means one set of champions has to lose. And same thing with like Oba and Moose. One of the champions has to lose. So it's like that's a part that it feels complicated at the same time because you don't want anybody as a champion to look bad. And you also think about the aspect that is a lot of NXT versus TNA. So which one is going to be on top? Is it going to be NXT or is it going to be TNA? Like if you see TNA winning too much, then people are going to be negative about it. So they got to have a balance in there somehow as well when it comes to like all the winners in the pay-per-view on the Roadblock. Because I feel like if you do have a lot of people from NXT winning, then the people are going to say, oh, this is WWE and WWE. They're the bigger company, so they're taking over. That's why they had all the people from TNA lose. So I think there definitely has to have a balance in there of who wins from each company, because then now we're definitely going to hear a lot of complaints.
And I think you can get around with Will's comment about it killing the crowd. I think you can get around that one with Julia and Stephanie being the main event. If you have that as the main event, no matter what it does to the crowd, you can get away with that. I think you open with the tag match. You semi-main with Moose versus Oba because you never main event with Moose. It's just a rule. You don't main event with Moose. But no, like I think at least they have enough in here that you can kind of get around everything
Mm-hmm.
without really having to do it.
Yep.
But again, we've talked about this countless times before. Who's the first person? Exactly. Rowdy Warrior. Ever since NXTNA began 6 months ago, the question me and you asked is, who wins what championship first? From the moment Jordan crossed the line at Heatwave, that's been our question. Who wins a cross-promotional championship first? I'm looking more and more, shocking as it is, at Cora Jade.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's room to have Cora Jade shock the world and defeat Masha Slamovich for the TNA Knockouts Championship. But again, there's a lot of wiggle room in 2 weeks. And the best part is they're not booking matches out of the blue for these matches. They started building the roadblock last week with Oba and Moose. In theory, they've been moving to the Hardys versus Fraxium for weeks.
Yep.
Because all of the time that Fraxium's been going to TNA, you've been building the story of, at some point, it's the Hardys versus Fraxium.
Yep.
And you've been doing Julia versus Stephanie all along as well. So while the match comes out of nowhere, there's still a build to it. So all of these matches are getting a proper build, even if it's only being announced a week or two before a pay-per-view. She's not even going to be on the card. No, she's not even going to be on the card. We're not going to talk about her.
No.
You don't have to worry about her. She's not coming across the line. She's going to be strictly on Thursday nights, and they can talk about her on Fridays with Making an Impact. Yes, when things make sense, it's just better.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to leave. And I'm just going to be on the back end to help Astrid on the back end to make sure it goes right. I want to talk about Shawn Spears. And I want to talk about that fucking killer promo that Shawn Spears gave tonight. No, he's not my new boy. I have loved Shawn Spears for a long time. I was a big
He's
10
been a perfect
fan
10
of
for
Ty
us.
Dillinger. No. I've been a fan before 10.
I
Because
know.
remember, I remember when HBK kicked Stan.
Yep.
I remember Shawn kicking Stan. But what an amazing promo for this group to have him break down, this is why I have a group. This is my purpose with these people. Here's what they were. Here's what I see. Here's what I'm going to make them. And do you know who came out the best out of all of this in this entire thing? Izzy Dane. The length of time they focused on what Spears thinks of Izzy and how he sees her, and taking words that in phrases that would generally make women look and feel inferior or used. He's using it to a different tactic. He talks about how she looks great and how she can talk her way out of anything. And he's like, most people call that manipulative. I call it strategic. And he takes it from a negative connotation and turns it into a positive for the wrestling business. She's not going to manipulate people. She's going to help me get my strategy across the world. Also, they gave her a distinct new look that fits the group. She's
not
just
wearing green.
not a random girl in green or in high fashion outfits.
Oh my gosh.
This promo did such, and like I said, I'm focusing on what Shawn says and what Izzy about Izzy, because I think that was the best part of this. But the parts about Brooks, the parts about Nico, all of that makes sense. And you make this group look like a badass. You make this group feel important. The difference between the group in Spears' family, as he called it tonight, is one thing. We know exactly who Spears' family is, why they're here, and what they're doing. We still, 3 weeks later, don't even have all 4 of them named on television. They haven't cut a promo, and they haven't done an attack on TV since the Premium Live event. This is showing 2 different ways to book a faction. One is successful, one is questionable. And the reason why I say the group is questionable is because this is something we've seen from them time and time again. Lyra Valkyria. She is fantastic now. Why? We know who she is. We know why she's here. We know what she's doing. What did we say for weeks when she debuted? They're cutting promos that make no sense. They give us nothing. And then she came out and she had good matches, lackluster matches that didn't give us an identity to who she is. Eddie Thorpe. Mel loves Eddie Thorpe. We loved Eddie Thorpe for a long time here. For so long, he came and went with no real rational idea as to what was going on. His best promo he's ever cut in NXT was his promo tonight. Why? Because he took the Native American thing that he wants to talk about, that he keeps trying to jam into the wrong hole on the little kid's toy, you know? Oh, it's the triangle piece. Where does it go? It goes in the square hole, and the little lady's head starts to explode because they keep putting things in the square hole. Eddie Thorpe finally used his, and I want to say used, he tied the Native American thing into a story about where they are, what they did, and how it relates to him as a professional wrestler. That was the best promo he's ever cut, and it's been 1.5 years. And he's been doing good work. We've talked countlessly about how smart it was to have him take himself out of the deadline match. What's the big deadline match? I can't remember what they call it now for the life of me. The 5-person scrambly match that we love.
Oh, Iron Survivor?
That's the one, the Iron Survivor.
I was like,
Sorry, it's been a long day.
I know, I get it.
But no, like they've done such a good job with the heel turn, but they still keep trying to force the Native American aspect into it. Tonight it fit. Tonight it made sense. Tonight Eddie Thorpe felt like the most realistic version of Eddie Thorpe we've seen in 1.5 years. For the first time tonight, he feels like the actual challenger that Obafemi needs at Stand and Deliver. And we've been talking about it for months, about how I feel like Eddie Thorpe was being built as the Stand and Deliver opponent. He just, tonight, we had those 2 killer promos. Hell, even the Tony D'Angelo promo was really good. Because it made Stacks feel important, and it related to the family as a family for the first time in what feels like the entire time Tony D'Angelo has been a babyface. Since he won that title from Obafemi, it's like the mobster gimmick was a thing that was there. Tonight, he's like, no, Stacks is the underboss. He gets to call these shots. He gets to ask these real questions. He gets to ask the questions that other people would get assaulted for having the audacity to ask me that. He gets away with them. Why? Because he's the underboss. He has to ask those questions to me. He keeps me accountable. They did such a good job with those 3 interviews. And I know I've just stolen half your show, and I apologize.
No. I know you're leaving, so that's why I wanted you to discuss whichever you wanted. But
those 3 promos, I felt like
no, they really stood out.
We're better than almost anything else on the show. The matches were good. Nobody had a bad match tonight. Well, almost nobody had a bad match tonight. We all know who had a bad match tonight. It's Andre's favorite. They had a bad match tonight. But I felt like these three things stood out to me.
Mhm.
And when I think about this show, I'm not going to think about, as cool as it was, the Candy Crew versus the Hardys. I'm not going to think about that match again. Ricky Saints, in Javon Evans in the tag team main event.
Mhm.
Cool match. Not really going to think much about it going forward. But those promos are setting up big things for Eddie Thorpe, for the D'Angelo family, and an implosion that I see coming very soon when I think Stacks takes out Tony D'Angelo next week. And again, I won't be here to talk about it when we talk about what's going to happen next week.
Mhm.
But early called shot there. I think Stacks turns on Tony, and Rizzo goes with Tony, and Luca goes with Stacks. Because I think we've seen Stacks being irritated for weeks with this whole Tony D'Angelo thing.
Yeah.
So I think that happens. It's not like he's going to go with Spears. He's going to do this to turn on Tony, to have a story between Stacks and Tony.
Yeah,
Because,
find his
again,
identity.
Oba needs challengers. They're going to need to feed people to Oba Femi after Stand and Deliver. Tony D'Angelo will be a fantastic fed challenger to Oba Femi after Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, it will skyrocket Spears into that North American title picture, where we can have a lot of these guys who are really good and really talented, and have Spears and his crew just whittle them down to nothing. Stand and Deliver North American title match could very easily be Charlie Dempsey versus Sean Spears. If you're looking at the dynamics of the groups and stuff, that could be your North American title match at Stand and Deliver, and it'd be a banger. I mean, tell me Sean Spears versus Charlie Dempsey would not be an incredible match. There's so many good things happening here, and it's not just put good wrestlers in ring, have good wrestling match, call it a day. They're doing the small things to tell stories, to make, I know, right? Mind-boggling that just good wrestlers in good match don't equal ratings. And that's not a shot at any one company. That's a shot at main roster. That's a shot at TNA. That's a shot at AEW. That's a shot at TNA. That's a shot at the Indies. Just putting people in matches isn't enough. It's a shot at it's a shot at everybody. You've got to tell stories that make sense. And if you don't tell stories that make sense, and you don't build these competitors to make me give a shit if they win or they lose. No, it's not I repeat this. It's a shot at every booker around the country. So many people think put great wrestler versus great wrestler, match, have great match, call it a day. And you can't do that. You just can't do it. You've got to make things make sense. And I know we like to have fun that Ed doesn't like AEW, but Ed loves AEW because for a very specific reason. AEW needs to succeed so that WWE can succeed. Because I'm a child of the new generation era. I'm a child of legitimately I'm a child of the Hogan era. But I started watching, I call it the new generation era. I started watching with Brett, with Sean, with the Rockers, with the Hart Foundation. I started watching in those early 90s. I remember the Monday Night Wars. I remember how important it was which side you were on, because you had to pick a side. You couldn't watch both. Nobody had two TVs that you could watch both shows. And you had to up your game to tell either compelling stories or have crash TV like that era was, the Monday Night War era was, the Attitude Era. You had to do things to make it make sense. If AEW fails, WWE will be worse off for it. If WWE and AEW both succeed, and everybody gets to enjoy the wrestling that they enjoy for whatever reason that they enjoy it, that's good. That's good for the business. It gives workers a place to go. It gives talent a place to go. It gives me and Astrid programs to have where I can talk about NXT. I can start talking about Evolve next week. And Astrid can go out here every Monday night and talk about old women's wrestling matches with Mel and with Auntie. She can come here on Tuesdays and talk with me about NXT. She can go on Fridays and have to put up with Mark and get the honor to talk to Brett and talk about TNA. There are things that everybody gets to do. We get to have people like Andre and Auntie and Mel and Lauren who talk about Ring of Honor and AEW, who love everything that they watch. Granted, they don't love every segment of every show, but wrestling is better when people love the products that they love. And just because I may not enjoy a particular product doesn't mean that every time I say wrestling needs to do this, bookers need to do that. It's not always a shot at one person. It's a shot at the new guy running TNA to make storylines make sense. Because why is Hammerstone back for spoiler? Whoopsies. Why has Blake entered the Impact Zone or the Full Sail University? Whoops. That was a whoopsie.
Well, I was gonna say, wait,
nothing
before you continue. This is because something happened to Auntie, and to be honest,
I
Mel and
agree.
I think
There
it's
was a reason- there was a
Auntie's
reason
show,
for
so
the
it
show.
didn't happen.
No, but
No, it wasn't for you. It was for STG.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, responding to his part. Auntie had a family situation, so that's why we decided not to do the show. Mel and I feel like this is more her show than ours. So
we all here at our local establishment back Auntie and every decision that she's made. There is no issue. It'll be back next week, probably. But even if it's not back next week, it will be back. Unlike Talking Takeover, eventually that Women's Classic Wrestling will be back. But no, it's about just everything making sense. It's about making sure that your stories make sense. Because wrestling's better when there are good stories. Why is the Bloodline the thing in WWE 2K25? Well, yes, we do love Auntie. We love Auntie to the ends of the earth. But why is the Bloodline the best thing about 2K25? Because the story has mattered to us for almost 5 fucking years.
it's too long.
Think about this. Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns happened inside the Thunderdome. And we're still telling that story in 2025. Stories matter. This was great for stories. This episode was great for stories because it gave Sean Spears a direction. We now know the who, the what, and the why about Sean Spears' group. We know the who, the what, and the why. We know the who, the what, and the why about why Eddie Thorpe is doing the things that Eddie Thorpe's doing. And while we don't know the who, the what, and the why of the Tony D'Angelo stuff, we know more about it. We're back to basics. We're back to this is a mob family. There's a boss. There's an underboss. There are people who are allowed to ask questions. There are people who aren't allowed. There's so much good shit on this program. I know that's a bad phrase from a bad man, but it's such a fun phrase. It's such good shit. This is the stuff that gets me going. It's the storylines that help me fantasy book the bullshit. That's the stuff that gets my mind going. I don't need a 5-star match. I need a story that makes sense that I can get into, a reason why I get to love somebody and hate somebody else. And with that, Ashley gets to hate me because I've taken all this time from her, and I'm going to let her talk about the rest. We'll talk about 2K25 fantasy booking when the game comes out next Wednesday for me.
Look at that.
Oh, but we have a positive rant from Ed for once.
Right?
I didn't take a shot at anybody.
Well, you did it,
sort of.
everybody.
I took a shot at everybody as opposed to one specific group. What I keep getting yelled at for. All right. Anyways, Astrid, you have a great show. I'm going to be here in case you need me, but I'm going to be going and back and forth.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to this though, since I didn't want to interrupt Ed earlier um, about Will's comment here. I wanted to discuss this because if a lot of people I know don't watch NXT UK, I ended up watching it mostly because I was writing about it. But I would recommend if you have access to watching it or finding old matches, you will realize that she isn't just Becky Lynch's friend. Lyra has been working her butt off in the indies, and Millie can even attest to that in the chat as well with Pro Wrestling Eve. And she's been wrestling in the indies for quite a while before she went to NXT UK and just NXT in general, and now WWE. So she's more than Becky Lynch's friend, to be honest. And I feel like she's been working her butt off in NXT to get where she's at. And I'm glad she's Intercontinental Champion. I just hope that they build up more stories for her in the future because I definitely want to see that. And see, don't get me started on the Lyra talent denial. Exactly. Yeah, I know you can attest to it. So I'll let you have it in the comments if you want to speak more about it because I know you definitely have more knowledge than I do. I started watching her more of NXT UK, but I've seen clips of her in Pro Wrestling Eve. But I know you have more knowledge about that aspect of it. Well, I wanted to continue where we left off. I left off with Arianna, Grace, and Santino, and they're discussing everything with NXTNA. And Lola comes in. She says she's looking for a fight. And she said, I don't care. I just want, it could be NXT, it could be TNA. I don't care who it is. I just want somebody. And Ariana said, well, we're not looking for walking like meetings. We have a lot to discuss here. And she, it made me laugh a little bit, the line from Lola. She said, you're a better pageant queen than a liar. And nobody in your family taught you how to fight. And that reaction from Santino at that moment was just priceless. And I just loved it. So we have Lola versus Ariana for a little bit later. As Billy said, put some respect to her name. Yes. And then we have Lexis Kinnick's backstage, and he runs into Oba Femi. They just talk to each other for a quick moment about Muse. And Lexis says he has the hometown advantage for tonight's show. And then we get Lexis versus Muse. For me, it was all right. Put some respect on Santino. Yes, you should. Look at the Ogre Lords here. I think, if not, it's adamant, one of the two. So yeah, this was fine for me. I feel like the thing that really stood out is just the fact that even Lexis is able to like fight back at Moose, and they have like a good back and forth because at first we have Moose just bouncing Lexis off the steel steps, but I think not too long after, Lexis is able to give him a back like a flying back fist the way he did it, and Moose did a top rope crossbody that was just pretty nice to watch as well. But not surprising, Moose wins. Chuckle and Santino reacted. Yes, he did. I did too. Lexis and Moose. Yeah, it was definitely like all right for me. Oba then comes out and interrupts as Moose should be probably having his celebration that he just won over Lexis. But Oba challenges him. But he says it's title for title, but it's not title for title. And then Ava announced later is a roadblock for the NXT championship. So ooh, Tony, that's interesting. Lexis' best match in an NXT run, in my opinion. I feel like it was okay. I feel like they get not Moose, but I feel like Lexis can do better. So maybe we'll see something else from him. But I feel like it was okay for me. So the Oba announced the title for title, but then Ava announced later on it's Oba versus Moose for the NXT championship at Roadblock. So again, we're going back to kind of like Roadblock being the Worlds Collide kind of pay-per-view. Then we have what Ed mentioned, which is the promo from Spears. I even love this as well. I can't even lie, Pedro's really zero attention to that match. I do not blame you whatsoever. I like the promo here. It gives you such a great background on each character and the way they all have changed and the way that like Sean Spears wants them all to be united, like a united front. He talks about Nico being a beacon of rage and the metamorphosis he's gone through, and that Izzy was that PC was missing, and now that their family is complete. And I like the comparison here, especially because of everything happening with Tony. How they always said they're the D'Angelo family versus now Sean saying my family's complete. Then we head off to this promo from Jordan, and she talks about being here. This is her first promo being an NXT superstar versus before she was from TNA. And I like the fact that she doesn't get to really say much, but saying that she's focused on getting that title. But then Roxanne interrupts, because I was not expecting, because I was thinking Roxanne was done with NXT now that she's in the Elimination Chamber this weekend, which I'm very proud of, by the way. And yeah, she interrupts her. She's like, "Well, this is still my division," and I like how Jordan just tells her, "If this is your division, then where is your title?" Um, but yeah, it's just I love the back and forth here. STG. Roxanne's just slightly heel and she's grown on me. Yeah, me too. I feel like, again, I keep comparing her to Bailey because it's the closest thing to it. How she went from such a lovable baby face to the heel that she is. And it took some time because I don't think Roxanne has ever been a heel even before NXT. So it took some time, but I know she's there and I really like the transformation we had from her so far. But I like the fact that he tells her, don't make me to send you packing back to TNA," and they have a great back and forth here. But Jordan ends up just hitting her and about to do her move at the end, and Lisa just laying on the mat there. They hadn't announced this match, but the way Roadblock is either Roadblock or Stand and Deliver that we get this match for. But either way, I will be happy to see it anytime. To be honest, I feel like they're both doing great here, and I'm excited to see this. And then we got Trick is backstage talking Millie here. This was a good back and forth. I feel like it has some slightly shaky moments, but overall I enjoyed it. Yeah, I did too. I think it's probably just the fact that it's Jordan is doing it in a new place. Is probably not used to it as well. But I feel like they did have a good back and forth here as well. Trick is backstage saying how basically people online are saying that he's lost every single match in the year so far. And Javon comes in, they have like a heated back and forth, and Ricky comes in and he's like, "Is everybody always angry in this place?" I did like this interaction here between all three of them. Again, it shows a little bit more of that darker side we have been talking about Trick lately. And we mentioned it also in the preview show that we did with Santi, is that the fact that he's a little bit darker every single time, and now that Eddie beat him, he's getting a little bit darker and darker and angrier every single time, which is something we're not used to from Trick. So I definitely feel like we're gonna see that darker side of Trick Williams moving forward. When she talked to that time, it was so funny. It was. We have an interview with Jada. Again, this was, yes, he does need to chill, but he's not gonna chill anytime soon. I can tell you that right now. Jada talking about Kalani. They had an interaction that was posted on socials a little bit earlier, and it's just about the back and forth they had. Not much, really, not like nothing new information here. And they announced later on that it's Jada Parker versus Kalani for next week. And we get one of the big matches for tonight, which is how we call them, the Candy Crew versus the Hardys. Again, this was a fun match. I feel like I like the back and forth between both teams here. I like the fact that Jeff is able to use Tavion to catapult himself to go towards Myles instead of using Matt like he usually does. And again, I like the fact that we have Fraxium here watching them, as in the end they end up winning. And when they do, Naxium comes in and tells the Hardys, "We're the greatest tag team of today. You're the greatest tag team of all time." So Santino comes out and again made me pop again seeing Santino hearing his music in NXT. And he made this match for Roadblock. And later Ava announces it. And she said it's Nathan and Axiom versus the Hardys for the TNA tag titles. So this is interesting, the back and forth that we have here with the championships on the line. Hello, thank you for coming. And let's see, we have next. This is the part that Ed had mentioned a little bit earlier. The part here. The interaction on the bus made no sense. The whole "I'm not talking about you, I'm just like about you" was, yeah. I definitely thought it was. It felt, I don't want to call it awkward, but I can't think of a different word for it. But I felt like she's like, "I'm not talking about you," but then she's talking to Arianna about her. It's just so weird to think about. I just don't know. I didn't particularly like it when they're so close to each other in the bus like that. But it is what it is. I can't even say anything else. Yeah, the big pop for Santino music. Even I yelled it at my brother from my room. I was like, "Santino!" But I love seeing the dictator, as he calls himself. But yeah, this is the promo that Ed was talking about a few minutes ago. The Stacks, Ed, Luca, Rizzo, and Tony. I did like the fact that they keep mentioning that Tony has been quiet with all of them so far, and Stack is taking that moment to like really question what's happening with Tony, and Luca's like more leaning towards Tony, but Tony's like, "Yeah, no, he's right. He's like, he's the underboss. He's able to ask these questions and he's the one that's supposed to take care of the family. He's doing just that. So he's doing his role as the underboss. So I definitely agree with Ed in the fact that I feel like something is happening next week in here. So it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. But again, I'm intrigued by the storyline in the promo here. I feel like they really set up for something great. No. So I'm really excited for that. This one made me laugh because we had Zoe and Zarya in the trainer's room. It says that it was over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And then we get not only Piper Niven, but we get the United States Women's Champion, Chelsea Green here. I love this interaction so much of Chelsea being here. And she's like, why are they talking to us? And Piper's answering for her. She's like, okay, whatever they want, just basically say yes. And then when she's like, what did you agree to? He goes, attack match next week. He's like, you should agree to anything but that. But next week, they also announced this. So Chelsea and Piper versus Soul and Zarya happening as well. And then the match I was not excited to watch. It's Arianna versus Lola. And again, this was a very short match. Not much of it happening. The ending being the back fist and Lola winning. And she barely gets to have her celebration because they cut off backstage and they show that the Candy crew have been attacked and the new group was walking away at the end. But yeah, I could have done without this match of Arianna versus Lola. I feel like there's no need for it whatsoever, but it's a match and it happened, as we say. And again, this is the next part is the one that Ed mentioned as well, is the one from Eddie Thorpe. He talks about his people being forcibly removed by a higher authority here, and he talks about where he is like inland, and he said, if I have to do this again, like I'll do it. And he talks to Trick directly, says, I want you as bad as you want me, just name the time and the place. And I kind of like the response here as well, just so focused on Trick and that darkness that we have there. Wait, I have a bone to pick with you because just 2 weeks ago we're gonna have Zarya and so have no chemistry. In the following week, you're sorry to message. There was like, I feel like there's just moments that they feel awkward, but then there's moments that they don't, which is weird to think about. I don't know how to describe it because I feel like the ones that I don't want to call it the vignettes they had like outside in the skating park and things like that for me wasn't it. This is a little bit better. They also had one, I think it was a week or two ago, in the locker room. That was very awkward as well. So I don't know what it depends on, or maybe I don't know if it's the writing or what it is, but maybe when they talk more like naturally to each other, more organically, like they're friends, it feels better. But like the one from the locker room, I remember recently was very awkward to think about. Happy to see you on my side with So and Zarya. I love them as a team though. Like in the ring, they're great together. I feel like they had chemistry and I love it. But at the same time, I feel like when those backstage segments happen, it feels a little bit awkward. And I don't know what it is. I would like to be able to like pinpoint what it is, but I can't right now, to be honest. But I feel like that's the only part that I'm like, I wish I could have done better. Like today, they feel a little bit better together. And I feel like having had Chelsea and Piper there, the people that have experience, it helps a lot there too as well. But I don't know what it is within like the backstage kind of segments. It just like sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. So I'm just like on the fence about those. But yeah, I agree with you. It feels like a new friendship, just trying to figure out it could be that as well. But I do like them as a team in the ring. I feel like they have great chemistry for people that haven't really tagged with each other for long. So I love that. But yeah, the segments are the ones that I'm on the fence about sometimes. So yeah, I love the entrance as a team. I do want to see them. I know they have different styles when it comes to their gears, but I would like to see them having similar patterns or colors, kind of like the way that Naomi and Bianca do, because they have their own gear, like their own style, but they have similar patterns and colors, and they end up matching somehow. So I would like to see that from Zoe and Zarya, maybe as a step moving forward with like the friendship and the tag team here. So maybe something that they could add on as well to make it more like a unity too. I would like to see something like that. Then we get an interview with Ava. Ava talks about the matches. So again, she goes Ova versus Moose for the NXT title. This is our roadblock. Nathan and Axiom versus the Hardys for the TNA tag titles. And Stephanie versus Julia's title for title. And that's all for roadblock in 2 weeks. And then next week we get Tony D'Angelo versus Sean Spears for the North American Championship. Kalani versus Jada, and Chelsea and Piper versus Soul and Zarya. So again, the next 2 weeks are very exciting for NXT. And then we head off here to the main event, which is Javon Evans and Ricky Saints, which I'm not used to saying still, which is Ethan and Wes. I love starting here, Wes catching Javon like mid move as he is able to counter it. And even to begin the match, Ethan begins the match, and when Javon's going like to attack him, Ethan goes towards the ropes and tags in Wes, and is like, "Yeah, I'm not having this to begin the match." Again, we have interference for, as we call them, TNT, Tyson and Tyriek. And I did like this part that Ethan just takes a Javon and puts him spine first, like around the top rope area. That looked very nasty, and the reaction from the crowd really put a great point to that as well. And I like the fact that we have Javon so often in the match that people want that hog tag for Ricky at the end. And again, it just makes my heart happy to see Ricky on screen. I miss him just wrestling and being on screen the way he is and being used on screen. So I'm very happy for him. I know the music is something that I'm going to miss at least, but I'm glad that in the music it has like a similar kind of rhythm. So he's able to do the thing that with the hands that he usually does for his entrance. I'm very glad that he's able to keep that. And again, the way that NXT is with their own nameplate, and it shows him with his pose next to him as well. So I really enjoy that all together, the way he looks. But yeah, and he did like a little gut buster as well. I think it was to Wes if I'm not mistaken. And Javon basically takes out Ethan. They leave the arena together. So that leaves Ricky and Wes together, and Ricky's able to get the victory for his team. And yeah, overall fun match. I'm glad he has his moment here with the crowd, and the people are able to cheer for him, and probably misses doing stuff like this. So I'm very happy for him. I'm very glad he's getting used moving forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing his direction as well. Since he was here a little bit earlier, I'm still gonna put up his stuff if I can find it. Here we go. So if you haven't yet, you can follow Ed on Twitter, edfries12584, on his Twitch, edfries2002. I know he's going to be doing some, like he mentioned a little bit earlier, he's going to be doing a poster for Evolve and some 2K25 stuff moving forward. So check on his socials or whatever he decides to announce that. And you can support him on doing that. And as you're here, most of you already know, this is our local establishment's OLE podcast. Again, you can follow us on most social media platforms. And we will appreciate that support. Anytime we post anything, definitely sharing it. And if you're on the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when we have upload or go live. As I showed a little bit earlier, that calendar is getting pretty formed. It makes my heart really warm and happy to see that calendar every single time and how busy it looks. And you can hit the thumbs up on the video. That helps us as well. We're working on getting our watch hours up to get monetized. So if you're able by any chance to keep any of our shows in the background, whether it's WCW or even Killer Cuts, or even Making an Impact. It could be the Japanese Wrestling Update or Marvel Talk. Any of those shows that are your favorites, keep those in the background. It could be on a Ramble, the Mother Talking Post show. I can never say that. I'm glad I said it for the first time. Keep them in the background and watch them, because it definitely helps our watch hours. The last bit piece that we need to be able to get monetized. So we would appreciate your support on that. And for my stuff, I will not be on Making an Impact this week, but I will next week. If I can find my stuff at this point. There we go. You can find me again. Monday will be WCW. Hopefully, we would do season 2 of the Mae Young Classic premiere. Again, we apologize for not doing it last night. Auntie had an emergency, and Mel and I didn't feel right doing it by ourselves without her there, because it's mostly her show. So you can find me doing that. Again, taking over with Ed on Tuesdays. This Friday, I won't be making an impact because I do have a family event, but next week I'll be making an impact with Mark and Brett as well. So a lot of fun stuff. And let's see, catching up here. Billy says, multiple chance represent Randy was hilarious. Yes, there was one at that point that he said, you're not Randy. And that made me laugh for sure. Thank you. You did great. Thank you. I tried. It's not easy when you're doing it alone. And I talk too fast when I'm nervous, if you can't tell. Wait, Hollywood, actually can say mother talking potion. There you go. It's hard to say because I want to say the other word and I just don't want to. But yeah. You can find me also in Horror Facts. Bobby and I are part of the Horror Facts team. We're going to be on their podcast very often. Ours just dropped as we were discussing Hard Eyes. So if you can subscribe to them on the podcast platforms as well. And No, STG, I will not be cursing anytime soon, at least. Maybe later. So if you can subscribe to them on whatever you get your podcast, we would really appreciate it. And you can follow them on socials as well at Horror Facts. And that will be on Blue Sky and Twitter as well. Not the effort. I know. I just want to say every time I see it, I have to stop myself. That's why I feel tongue-tied when I see the name of the show. And for me, you can find me on Twitter, Blue Skies, Astrid Bizarro, and my Instagram and Threads, Astrid Bizarro20. You can find me most likely on my YouTube channel as well. I'm also on my goal to get monetized. I'm almost at 300 subs. So if you can, tell a friend to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I upload or go live as well. And again, every time you see any of the videos, hit a like on it as well. That will really help us out to get viewed by more people in the end. So I really appreciate it for that as well. But yeah, I'm going to play the counter on the way out. So that way, if you haven't yet, you can find something to watch here in OLE. And then hopefully we will catch you on next week. See ya.
Please note.
Never gonna stop, never gonna change, never gonna do the things you say. I run my own way to get there. Pulls a coin in the eye, seem to care. In the air, no more crowd, just the opposite kind of few clouds. So tell me this time is coming, for the sake of all your lies.